Mary Lynn Roper is standing by in Santa Fe to anchor our coverage of the first anniversary of the penitentiary riot. That occurred exactly 1 year ago today. The event, of course, shocked all of America as well as New Mexico. Mary Lynn?
Well, Johnny, to look at the calm scene behind me today, it's difficult to believe what was happening just 12 months ago. Smoke billowed from the windows of part of the prison as burning and killing continued. What we didn't know but found out later was the degree of insane rage that had erupted inside, not just inmate against guard, but prisoner against prisoner. These were the scenes that were later unveiled. Blood everywhere, signs of systematic torture, indications of savage murders. We who were here saw it, but there was no way to understand it. Even a year afterward, the why of the riot isn't really clear, and the how of preventing it from ever happening again is not much clearer. What lit the torch a year ago? The most likely story is that overcrowded dormitories gave some of the harder cases a place to hide as guards made an inspection tour. The officers were jumped, and a combination of bad luck and careless procedures by the staff led to the seizure of more guards and eventually the Vital Control Center. What happened has been studied, examined, investigated, and probed. The Attorney General's special report put much of the responsibility on the guards, poorly trained, too few in number, and not following routine precautions. Today, some of those problems have been corrected, but deficiencies remain, as Karen McDaniel reports.
There are 27 people in this cadet training class. By the end of this year, the odds say there will be less than 8 left in the correction system. The fact is, the state is spending a great deal of money and time to train guards who are sometimes in training longer than they're at work. But the Corrections Department is tenacious, expanding their training time and facilities and trying to produce guards who consider themselves professional. And there have been changes in the kinds of training they get.
Okay, the officer inmate safety block, he'll learn proper ways to restrain an inmate if he has to, restrain an inmate for his protection, for the inmate's protection, and for his own protection as an officer if something happens where he might have to get away from an inmate. We don't teach them how to beat up people or anything like that.
There's also a good deal of time spent on teaching guards how to deal with inmates as human beings, something that wasn't taught before. But the attrition rate still tops 80%. Of the 175 regular guard positions at the state pen, 116 are filled by men who have been there for less than a year.
Warden Harvey Winan says he has now been given permission to hire additional guards. His problems may come, however, not in hiring more guards, but in keeping them. Karen McDaniel, Action 7 News.
But it is pretty plain that improving conditions for the officers on the line has a long way to go. Still discussed among recruits is what happened that night last year. How does the administration deal with memories like this? One guard was sexually attacked from 30 to 50 times. Today, he has recovered to where he can cut wood and sell it to supplement his workman's compensation income for injuries received. Another guard stripped nude and prodded down a hall with his own nightstick until he fell and then kicked the rest of the way. Another hospitalized for months, first because of the beating he received, later because his mind just couldn't come to grips with what it had seen and felt. Another guard, hidden by friendly inmates, so frightened by his experience that he has taken shelter in the quiet of a ranch where he does odd jobs. And one guard, one of the youngest, hung up by the neck while small fires were lit underneath him. By some incredible chance, he escaped death, but to this day, he can't face sharp objects. His family and he eat their meals with spoons. But the guards were not the only real victims. The inmates were. Victims of their fellow prisoners. The inmate code of the penitentiary is strict. If you cooperate with officials, if you're an informant, if you're a snitch, you are in danger of your life. 33 inmates lost theirs. Dozens, perhaps hundreds, looked on. And today, a year later, how many torturers have been singled out? How many killers are facing trial? Orlando Medina has this update.
So far, 9 inmates have been named as defendants on murder charges and other riot-related crimes. One inmate already pled guilty to a murder charge and was sentenced to life imprisonment. He will be a potential witness in the murder trial of 3 fellow inmates. The Santa Fe District Attorney's Office received a total of $750,000 from the state. The DA says most of the money has gone for investigation. The Public Defender's Office received a total of $400,000 so far for expenses and information gathering. They say the maximum average to defend an inmate on murder charges is about $25,000. Another prison expense was the $100,000 plus report by the Attorney General. This two-part report, including a Citizens Committee report, probed the cause of the riot and made recommendations. Attorney General Jeff Bingaman feels it was a good investment.
I think that we did an extremely thorough job of analyzing what did occur, and also I think we did a thorough job of reviewing the last 10 years of conditions at the prison and identifying some of the key factors that led to the riot.
There are still more expenses to come. The Santa Fe District Attorney and the Public Defender's Office are seeking $2.5 million from the state legislature to split 50-50. The DA says the money will cover the prosecution and defense of a possible 75 to 125 inmate defendants on charges ranging from arson to murder. Orlando Medina, Action 7 News.
So to date, millions have been spent investigating what happened. Millions more are being requested for prosecution and for the defense of those accused of mutilating and slaughtering their fellow inmates. As we said, the prisoner code is strict, so it remains to be seen who will testify and who will stand trial. The legislature has to decide how much to spend and how to spend it in order to bring cases to trial and to change the conditions that led up to the penitentiary riot. Action 7 Santa Fe Bureau Chief Emil Roberts is standing by with this analysis. Emil?
Mary Lynn, last year, just before the riot, fewer than half a dozen bills were being considered that pertain to the Corrections Department. This year, more than 24 are being considered, and most of the legislation is expected to pass with few, if any, problems.
Among the bills are those dealing with renovating or building new medium and maximum security units, more programs for inmates, community-based corrections, expanded prison industries, and completion of the Los Lunas medium security facility. But Representative George Fettinger, who heads the Criminal Justice Study Committee, believes the cornerstone of all prison bills is one providing for a new inmate intake and classification center.
Without a proper intake and classification function and a functioning department sending people to the right place. For example, some of the original problems were having high-risk inmates mixed in with low-risk inmates at the penitentiary itself. That was one of the fundamental problems that probably was a root cause of the riot.
The system, Fettinger says, is designed to allow inmates a chance to progress through the different classes of security and eventually return to society. And he believes the $11 million the center will cost is a wise investment.
If we'd have had proper intake and classification prior to the riot, we would have saved 33 lives and, who knows, $50 million. Pretty good investment by any standard.
Fettinger is confident the new system will be a reality by the time lawmakers leave Santa Fe in March. Mary Lynn?
Thank you, Emil. Finding solutions to the problems at the state penitentiary will cost money, lots of money, but state residents seem to be willing to make the investment. In a special poll taken by Action 7 News and Zia Research 2 weeks ago, we asked about 400 New Mexicans if more time and money should be spent to correct the problems. Most said yes, 55%. Only 28% of those polled felt too much time and money had already been spent trying to get to the root of the problems here. Some commented to our pollsters that it is a prison after all, not a country club. Others said politics should be taken out of the Corrections Administration. One additional factor remains, of course. What the legislature pays for, what it proposes, has to be carried out by the executive branch. Directly responsible for what will happen at the state penitentiary is the new warden, Harvey Winans, who has only been on the job for about 2 weeks. He is working with new people both above and below. What does the new warden feel? What does he think about the future? Karen Stengel talked to him.
Harvey Winans is from Wisconsin and has a 27-year background in corrections work. Already during his short 2 weeks as warden, there have been 2 escapes, 2 inmate stabbings, and 2 minor disturbances. When asked if the recent rash of violence is the prisoner's means of testing him, Winans said he doesn't believe the incidents are because of his arrival. As a result of the disturbances, however, the warden ordered a lockdown search of the institution. Winans says he has some changes in mind for the prison, which include a reclassification of some prisoners and creating additional programs for inmates.
I do have plans to have some reorganization of the chain of command, and there will be some departments that will be reporting to different deputy wardens. I think this will enable us to have more consistency within the institution.
The prison has seen a high turnover of wardens, 5 in the last 10 years, but Winans is confident he will outlast his predecessors. Karen Stangl, Action 7 News.
So the future, as it always is, remains cloudy. We can only wait to see what happens, but in concluding this report, let me make an observation. The news media are criticized for sensationalism. Perhaps we're guilty some of the time. There are those who say that the horrors of February 1980 are best forgotten, that we talk too much about the prison, the prisoners, and the problem. But a whole year has gone by with relatively little improvements in conditions at the prison. A year has gone by with relatively little done to prosecute those who committed almost indescribable crimes a year ago. And a very wise man once said, "Those who do not learn by history are condemned to repeat it." Let's hope not. Johnny?
Thank you, Mary Lynn. Good report.